Hello and welcome to Asmakam and Self Learning's latest podcast series, Unlearned, where we'll be having conversations around education, mental health, wealth, technology, and many other such topics, and unlearning the way we think about them. Each week, we will be having one or two guest speakers who will be sharing their unlearning journeys with us and will help us see things in a different light, basically. So, this week, we have Rohit with us, Rohit Kajkadia, very dear friend who we met, I think, a couple years ago in Surat at a service space retreat. And Rohit will be talking with us about unlearning success. So Rohit's journey was pretty conventional until it wasn't. He was a CA topper, and then he went on to do his MBA from IIM Bangalore, where he was also a topper. And for our listeners outside of India, I just wanted to tell you, IIM is sort of like one of the most prestigious institutes here in India. Basically, it's like an Ivy League in India. So after he did his MBA, he worked at Avendus Capital, which is India's leading investment bank, helping top internet companies of India in fundraising and acquisitions. And after this, things changed a bit when after he started working at Avendus. A search for truth and meaning led him to step out of his corporate career at a very early age. After which he worked as a strategy head at Give India, India's leading non-profit fundraising platform, playing a very important role there in sort of revamping the organization. More recently, his service journey has shifted from creating a big impact to, as he puts it, doing small acts with great love. Right now, he stays in Ranchi with his parents and can often be found volunteering with Service Space, which is a global community founded on the simple principle that changing yourself, you can change the world. But I'll let Rohit share more of his journey with us. Hi, Rohit. Great to have you.
Hi, Maitri. So nice to meet you, and thanks a lot for that glorious introduction. I'm really, I am just really moved by all the goodness which you have ascribed to me, which I don't know whether I deserve or not. Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot to us, Markham, for actually affording and creating this beautiful space to have some meaningful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So I'll let you share more. Like, how does one go from being at the top of the corporate ladder to then volunteering at at a wonderful organization like Service Space? How does that happen?
That's a beautiful question, Maitri. I think the answer to that is something which I'm myself discovering gradually as we go. But as you said, see, I grew up in Ranchi in a sort of middle class, upper middle class kind of a family, kind of a setup. And as I see the story panning out among most of my friends, I mean, I think that's the sort of zeitgeist of this age. That's the archetype of this age that just your parents encourage you to study hard, do well in schools, and once you have good exams, supposedly you are going to have a good life, right? So that was the assumption I just bought into, right? Like and I worked hard. I did all that what I did. I think I was academically somewhat uh, uh, gifted in some ways. So I did well in school and so on. I got like a host of degrees which you mentioned. And basically it was like and one of the stories which always sort of I still remember with a lot of wonder is that when I had completed CA, which is Chartered Accountancy, and then I was working in a sort of a regular corporate job, right? And I used to feel a bit sad about what I was doing. That and like I used to have something in corporate finance, and I used to get a certain amount of salary for that, and I used to think that if only my salary was like 20% more, if only my job description a little more, little more interesting and powerful, then I think my life would be sorted. Then I would not, have any complaints from life. And here, then suddenly I was, part luck, part hard work, cracking into one of the best B schools of the country, as you said. And 2 years since I graduated from that B school, finding myself in a corporate setting where not only I was earning like 10 times more than what I was earning before, so something which I would have never imagined myself to be doing. But also in terms of, so that's one aspect of it, but also in terms of I think the professional impact or professional sort of fame element to it, that we were doing some really highly important work. Like, we were helping all the big companies of India and the world, which you see today, like companies which have become globally known in the internet field. And we were helping them raise hundreds of millions and billions of dollars for fundraising and mergers, due to which, like, they can amass and, sell their products to virtually whole of India. I mean, you see that India is undergoing a tech boom right now, which is, it's touted to be the world's largest tech economy now, undergoing next 20, 30 years, going to be the largest economy, right? A growing economy right now. So, so everything which we would do would be like front page of all newspapers the day we finish it, right? So,
Hmm.
and imagine, like, a young guy of 26 who is just fresh out of school, but leading CEOs whom you read about in newspapers, they lining up in front of the guy and, saying, ki, Rohit, can you advise how should we run our company? So that's sort of a lot of very not a very common kind of fame and sort of professional recognition which I found myself in. It
Hmm.
gave me a lot of exposure on how business world works, how economy works. Uh, it gave me a lot of exposure on what everything happens behind the scenes, beside what the advertisements you see on TV, and all of those things, right? So all of those, there's a lot of this, which I'm grateful for, all the confidence which it gave to me. But somewhere I think two questions started really ringing deeper in my psyche. One was that what is this impact of all this consumption which is happening, right? I said that earlier. I used to think
Hmm.
my salary would be 30% better. I would be, sorted. But here I was with so much more money, power, fame, but I still was not sorted, right? There were new levels which got unlocked, which I wanted to now achieve. They
Yeah.
say that, as you grow richer, your happiness also starts becoming proportionately more expensive. So,
Very.
so if I honestly reflect back, I find it difficult to say that whether in terms of wellness, in terms of overall richness of life, not just financial richness, was I doing any better even after those significant jumps in my external success?
Hmm.
So that's one thing. And the second thing also was that, this question that if so much of more consumption is not making me happy,
Right.
then is it making really others happy? And you see, right, how this internet smartphone addiction and exposure is making all of us in a way addicted to it, right? Like we see
Very
our
true.
cell
Yeah.
phones knowingly, unknowingly, thousands of times in a day. And every time someone is trying to, in a way, sell you something or distract your attention. So I really got sensitive to this part that, do I want to really continue accumulating gains for myself by driving more and more people to consumption? Is that the only way to have a good living, have a good occupation? That is, selling things to people. Like, if I see you on the street, Maitri, I just want to have an authentic conversation and, in which both of us grow rather than try to sell you something in that moment. So
Oh, great.
those were some of the kind of questions that started coming in.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think we've sort of evolved into this very capitalistic, consumption-heavy community globally. And yeah, I think especially like this pandemic has definitely made you reevaluate what are the, luxuries which are actually luxuries that now you're just taking for granted and expecting them, like now this has become your way of living, and it's not supposed to be like that.
Yeah, yeah,
True. Yeah. So, like, you've achieved success in this very traditional sense of the word also. वो जो शर्मा जी का बेटा होता है जिसका सब बताते हैं कि इसको शर्मा जी के बेटे को शर्मा जी का वो बेटा was you. And yeah, and now you're and now you're redefining what success means to you for yourself. So what do you think about like this narrative of success that like we've created today in our society? That like this very materialistic, very capitalistic, uh, very
yeah.
frankly soul-sucking narrative of success that we have today. And how do you think we can change this? And do you think it even needs to be changed? Like, is there a need for this to change?
Hmm. Hmm. Beautiful. Uh, so, Maitri, I have seen two aspects to it. The first aspect is you start from an outside in lens, that you start
Mm.
exploring, what is the impact of your actions, right? Is it helping the world or harming the world, right? Is it driving more consumption
Yeah.
or is it driving more? Uh, so that's one lens. Which I think it's an incomplete lens, right? I think we are more
Mm.
likely to miss the point when we just engage with that kind of a lens, that are you a good person or are you a bad person, right? Like, are you doing good things to
Right.
the world? Are you doing a duty? So all of that sort of creates a heaviness, and in that heaviness, sort of our
Mm.
intrinsic motivation starts shutting down, our hearts start shutting down. And the other way to look at
Right.
this, which I have found very useful in my own life, is just to see that, is it really adding value to me? Is it like beyond just the balance
Mm.
sheet? Is it creating a sense of balance in my life? Is it really sort of adding to my well being and wholeness in life? And once you start asking that question sincerely to yourself, I think this narrative of success starts in some way, crumbling, because it's not like it's not a very solid narrative. Like, we
Right.
just see the leaders from far off, whether be it our political leaders or corporate leaders, or these days the startup world is so glamorous, or the investment banks, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, Ritik Roshan kind, coming out of this car and selling something and making $1 million just by one phone call. so, so from the outside, it looks really glamorous. But if you were to say really spend a week with any of these people, close to them, observing them closely on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis, you will just start very evidently seeing that their lives are not as appealing as it looks, right? They have,
Right.
still
Definitely.
very much the same challenges, very different kind of challenges altogether. So,
Mm.
and in fact, like, one of the things which I used to think, which was very strong for me, like, I always used to put a lot of premium on my hard work, that, oh man, I am,
Mm.
working so hard. I am, studying for 15 hours, or I'm working a day for 16 hours and so on. And that's why, I am able to achieve so much. I am able to create such a good life for myself, like, but that kind
Yeah.
of a narrative has totally crumbled for me, right? Today, if I honestly see and I ask myself that, just ask myself, like the gardener who comes to my home in the morning, right?
Mm.
He just does his, 2 hours of labor at my home, and then he goes to five different homes just in my locality. And maybe he earns whatever he earns, like 10,000 rupees a month, or maybe
Mm.
15,000 or whatever. If I really ask myself that is my quality of life, on what metrics do I even measure that my life is any
Right.
superior to him? I feel that,
Mm.
in many ways, he's living a richer life than me, right? In many ways, his life is more expansive than me. So,
Right.
so once you start seeing it from that lens, I think start becoming clear that, just external focus uh, is actually not making us successful. I mean, I was
Mm.
chatting to one of my friends who is sort of the heir of like one of the oldest family businesses in Singapore, and he said
Mm-hmm.
that and they do since last 150 years they've been working in the field of luxury goods,
Wow.
and he said that
Wow.
I have discovered that and he left his business, like he worked there for a few years and he left it like few years ago, and he's quite young, he's not even 35, and he said that I have discovered that real luxury or real wealth is the capacity to balance your inside. Like whatever you achieve on the outside, it's all experience, right? I may have a Rolls Royce, but if I'm not able to experience gratitude and joy out of it, then actually
Hmm.
it's worthless, right? Like you have an
Very
extremely
true.
expensive car, but it has a very poor mileage. So you need to invest so much to keep that car running. So this body is a car. So I think so. The internal apparatus is like so. What we is extremely important. So I think that's the narrative of success. I think we need to shift the narrative of success in our own heads. And how do we do that? From just external
Hmm.
achievement to understanding that inner sense of poise, inner balance, inner contentment, inner gratitude, inner sense of compassion is what is ultimately matters at the end. Because I was seeing a talk a couple of days ago by a guy I just love, Mickey Singer, and he does it in a very interesting way. He asks people, "What do you really want?" Like imagine like if imagine if just be very honest about what you really want, and
Hmm.
and and assuming that it is going to be granted to you right away, right? And people ask I think if I get this girlfriend, or if I am able to marry this person, or if I get this promotion in the job, that's what I really want, right? And then he meets them outside the room and he says, okay, just for a second, imagine that you went out the room and then God met you. And he said that, okay, you can have everything which you said, but there's just one catch over there, that you will actually achieve all of those things, but you will continue to feel grumpy and, as unhappy you are right now, even after
Hmm.
achieving those.
Hmm.
So should we sign off the deal or not? So there is no, no, no. What's the point then?
Very
So,
true.
so ultimate point is we just want to actually feel expansive and open and rich inside, right? So there's a lot of
Hmm.
merit in sort of trying to explore that directly than trying to explore it through what your mind tells external achievement will lead you to.
Right. Yeah, very true. And sort of this leads us to my next question, which is, like, so generally when we think of our careers or the work we do, it's seen as this entirely separate journey of growth than what we'd call, inner transformation or inner growth. So like regards to our career or our work, it's always about, am I growing financially or are my skills growing? But then there's this whole separate journey of inner growth and transformation that is happening, right? Which is completely like separate from what our careers are or the work that we're doing. But like especially in your case, your career, whether it be in the corporate world or in the work that you're doing now, it's sort of actually led to inner transformation and growth. So, how do you think that we can use our work as a means to sort of grow and evolve, not just materialistically, but also mentally and emotionally as well? And then, how do you see this how do you see this happening in your life?
Beautiful, beautiful. That's a great question, Maitri, and it's a question which sort of inspires me a lot. I think
Hmm.
somewhere, in a way, I have been practicing that even unconsciously since many years, but I think last 2 or 3 years it has become more explicit and more conscious. Uh, and and I think it all boils down back to the what's the intention. So I think what I'm to say that your mind and body is your first and foremost home, right? So whatever
Hmm.
you do outside is should be done with an intention to make that more beautiful, right? And
Right.
like not a mind much more than body, although the two are very deeply interlinked, right? so so that I think is the objective of doing
Mm.
things for the purpose of inner transformation. Like I think especially audience, people in India are very familiar with some amazing uh, bridge building, which some great saints have done in terms of karma yoga, like bringing that
Right. Right.
concept to our common awareness. And the concept of karma yoga, which is the yoga of action, to the extent I
Mm.
understand it, which is very limited, has always said that you do action, but it is not to solve a problem of the world outside. You do action actually, because actually you cannot solve any problem in the outside world. If you think you are solving problems, you're just merely shifting the face of the problems to a place where you cannot see it,
Mm.
right?
Right.
Like for example, if I thought that my lack of money was my problem, I have earned money and I've
Mm.
solved the problem, but I've not solved the problem really. I've just shifted a problem and now it manifests in some different ways, some subtler ways
Right.
which are even harder to tackle. So that's
Mm.
why. But so then, what's the point of action? If you can't solve an outside problem, so the point of action is that it becomes a tool for you to actually bring out the elements, the unconscious elements of your mind, which is inside, out in the outside, and to become visible to you, and then use that tool, that experiment, as a measure of cleaning your insides, or balancing your insides, or deepening your insides. That's why someone like Gandhi, he did not call it my action to give freedom, to achieve freedom for India. He called it my experiments with
Mm.
truth, because
Right.
all of it was done in a spirit of experimentation. And what he was trying to unlock, he
Mm.
was trying to unlock that deeper inner voice. He was trying to unlock that deeper flow of nature. So so that's why it's very important. And to just give a couple of quick examples, so one of the things which I retrospectively feel, it was such a important thing which happened, like when I just joined Aventus, which was my first role after my B school. It was a great
Mm.
company, right? And I think the salary and everything which was offered was is easily like among like top 0.1 percentile of India, or like what you call creme de la creme. So I was among like already
Mm.
very privileged, right? But that's the nature of the mind,
Right.
right? I had created a very solid story in my head, and I feel like in a way an utter failure of for getting through that company. Because I
Mm.
always used to feel that, oh, Rohit Rajgadia is so sharp, so bright. I should always just in the campus placement, I should just always make to the top three, global most privileged and most well-known banks. Like it could be Goldman Sachs or
Right.
Morgan Stanley and things like that.
Mm.
And even just getting there felt like an utter failure to me. Now, like from
Mm.
getting to Aventus felt like an utter failure to me. So I was like, man, I just missed this golden opportunity. Now my whole life is ruined. But anyway, you can't. Life does not give you all the choices. So I joined that place, and within first 20 days or so of working there, we were approached by another much larger bank. I was
Mm.
approached, and the pay package over there was like almost twice of what I was, the already high pay package which I was making there.
Mm.
Like the kind of pay packages we are talking about is like sometimes people are not even able to reach that kind of level through their whole lives. Talking
Right.
of pay package, the inequality. I was reading a stat recently from Oxfam, which said that Mukesh Ambani, in every hour in this lockdown, uh, his wealth increased by an amount which will which is equal to 10,000 lifetimes of effort of I think, oh no, sorry, which is equal to a lifetime of effort of 10,000 casual laborers. That's what he
Wow.
earned every hour. So,
Wow. That's
so
crazy.
all these asking about all of thinking about all of these things has completely shifted the way we look at concepts like meritocracy and what is my worth and what do I deserve and so on.
Right.
So
Yeah.
coming back to that point, I was saying that so I was offered by this another bank, which a money salary which was like two times, and which is something which I'd always wanted to work as. It was sort of
Hmm.
the best dream I could see in that moment, the purest version of my own dream, right? But something just happened, right? 2 days before which I was made that offer, somehow my manager in my firm sort of got to know that a bunch of people in his team were interviewing with a competing bank, and no
Oh.
company wants its a good employees to just quickly leave right away after joining. So he called like three, four of us, and he asked each of us that I know that you guys are all interviewing, but I would suggest that uh, you should not leave. It's just consider it sort
Hmm.
of a moral question that you have just joined, and especially for me because I'd even interned at that place. So he said that you have even interned at this place, and you we were all flexible for you. So I think you should stay here for at least a year
Hmm.
and then make a choice. So I said I can't commit. Let me think about it. And I
Hmm.
thought about it, and by the evening I messaged him that okay, if you say so, I will stay. In my mind, I thought maybe
Hmm.
it's not right for him to sort of put me in this kind of a situation. I should have a free choice, but I felt that what he has done, I can't change. He has played his
Right.
move. Now it's my move, right? So I
Hmm.
felt like okay, I could make that commitment. Everyone, and then just the next day I got that offer from the bigger bank with 2x the money. Now
Hmm.
imagine just a young grad with a significant loan on his head, with significant aspirations to be successful, but somehow as soon as I got the call, from the moment I got the call, I was extremely clear that I'm not going to accept it. uh,
Hmm.
I spoke to so many friends, and all of them said that, are you a fool? Why are you doing this? You should totally go.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer, right? It's like,
Right.
have you entered in the contract? Even if it was a written contract, it would not have mattered. But you just, verbally said something to say, who is he to you, and so on and so on, right? But
Right.
and and that HR person of the other firm, he was like so kicked, and he was like literally begging me that, Rohit, are you a fool? Why are you doing? You must come to this firm. This is so great. You also know it. In some ways, I knew it was great, but I just could not. It was not even like a question in my mind, and I dropped that offer. So that, if I just see it from an external lens, it would feel like a loss. But if
Hmm.
I, bring this lens of inner transformation, if I bring this lens of cleaning and, keeping your insights sorted and very sharp and powerful, I feel it was like, one of the most profitable decisions I have made. Not because how it turned out in retrospect, but just
Hmm.
because you have your center, you have your grounding, you have your anchorage, you have your principles clear in life, right?
Right.
Because if yeah, so that's one example. Another example which comes to mind, this was a little even more tricky. So this was when I was working at a non-profit after leaving my investment banking role, and 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 so after I left Avendus, I felt like maybe I should do something which is sort of more helpful for the world. So I interviewed for a non-profit, Give India, I think you mentioned, and they asked me like what kind of salary, what salary do you want? So of course, like non-profit salaries are much lesser than what could be paid in corporate world. So
Right.
I said whatever is feasible for you, I am good with that. Because anyway, I know you won't. There's no point in me asking for a number, and anyway, whatever is within your organization's budget, I'm fine with that because uh, I'm not coming here for the money. Money is irrelevant to
Hmm.
me. That's what I said to myself, right? And I joined that work, and it was quite low. I think like maybe 10% of what I was making earlier.
Hmm.
And I was quite happy. For a few months, I just worked with so much of uh, motivation and excitement. And after that, gradually what happened is like I was sort of a strategy head, so I was like taking charge of, watching over all the functions. One day I
Hmm.
just, there was some HR work and I started going through it and I saw the salaries of all the people. From that day, my mind started. So that day, and then all this inner noise in mind, right? Like this comparison with
Hmm.
people, and that I am doing this much effort and I am getting this. Other person is doing so much effort. He's getting so much more. Is that fair? And all of that. So that was like all this kind of comparison, right? And the second was also that on the other hand I was having some very so I would not go more detailed. I think we are short of time, so I would just say it there. So what I did is like
Hmm.
so there's external money, power, work, everything is important, but your inner intrinsic motivation, right? Like, in Gita,
Hmm.
I think everyone has access to Gita's reading lessons in India. And the central message is do something without expectation of return, right?
Right.
And do not compare yourself and stuff like that. So,
Hmm.
I felt it very ridiculous that, something which I was so happy doing till today, now just I
Hmm.
have some additional data point of what someone else is doing or what someone else is doing. It's just messing up my head so much. And it used to happen at the vendors also. Like I was doing so well, but the moment I would read somebody getting a job change and suddenly doing much better in their lives, uh,
Hmm.
what I was feeling extremely good about myself till now, in a moment of reading that LinkedIn update, I will start feeling, I'll start questioning my whole self worth. I will start feeling bad about my whole self, right?
Hmm.
So that kind of is all the mind games which our mind plays. So solving that was
Yeah.
a bigger priority for me than solving the
Hmm.
external fairness problems and so on, right? So it
Right.
was funny, like, we were having the annual appraisal, and my boss, who is a very dear friend, he says that Rohit, I think that you are underpaid. We should give you a big raise. And and I got happy for a moment. Of course, who doesn't need
Who
money? Who
wouldn't?
doesn't
Yeah.
sort of like
Right.
being appreciated? And I got happy for a moment, but then I took a pause and I thought, you know, uh, sort of long term. I thought it in more nuances, and I felt that will that really solve my problem? Because if I
Hmm.
always have this need and sort of sense of lacking, of being comparison, of just needing anything outside to trigger me that I'm not being, this life is not being fair to me. So that is a bigger
Hmm.
problem I want to first prioritize, right? So I
Right.
just thought for a few moments and just spontaneously I said, actually, what I want is to stop taking a salary altogether because I
Hmm.
don't even know what it means to work from the place of intrinsic motivation, where the your work
Right.
itself is the reward for you when you're so immersed in
Hmm.
it that you don't care whether what is being paid or not. And in a way, the work which you're doing, because you put so much heart into it, that is priceless, right? So nobody can put
Very.
a price
Yeah.
tag to it. So so so,
Obviously.
so that was just something happened. It was very interesting. So then I worked as a volunteer there for next few
Hmm.
months, which was I would say it just has opened me to a whole new world of how beautiful, powerful, self-transformative and transformative for others around by changing the environment volunteering can be. Not trying to fix the
Right.
world, but doing it as an expression of your joy, your gratitude.
Yeah. Very beautiful. I think very profound everything you said. Yeah. So I actually have some rapid fire questions for you. Um, so there are just like a couple of questions around unlearning and all of this stuff. So I'll start with my first question, and you have to like don't think about it too much. Like the first thing that
Okay.
comes to your mind, just yeah. Okay. So, what is the most important thing that you have unlearned up till now?
That I create the results by my doing and hard work.
Hmm. Wow, yeah. Okay. If you could go back and change one thing about your education, your school or college life, what would it be?
Mm. Oh, that's an interesting one. Uh, I think I would do it more. Maybe I would, you know, open up circles where people can just teachers and students can meet more each other as friends and fellow travelers. That would be an
Hmm.
important part of the curriculum, rather than and to discover themselves rather than just cramming to, you know, be right rather than wrong.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Because I think it just unnecessarily, unconsciously ends up creating a lot of trauma and this sense of conditional
Hmm.
belonging to the world that
Very true.
only if
Yeah.
you do something, then only you are worth, you prove your worth in
Right.
life, otherwise you are unworthwhile. uh,
Right. Okay. What is one life skill you think everyone needs to have?
oh that's an easy one for me. Two life skills, I would say. One is compassion, and
Hmm.
compassion is not just same as donating money or just
Yeah.
doing 1 hour of work. It is something way more nuanced. It is, in
Hmm.
my eyes, a fundamental to a person's well-being to have a sense of compassion in one's life for one's own good. And the other is the stillness of mind, where you're not always trying to do something to be better, where you allow the noise to settle down and you see that everything is just perfect and beautiful as it is right now. I mean, as perfect
Yeah.
as it could be. It could be better, but right
Hmm.
now that's the best. So to learn to accept that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially with what's going on now, that's a very important mindset to have. Okay, so what advice would you give youth or students today in regards to, like, success or in building a career? Like, what is the one advice you'd give?
Hmm. I think you know, uh, there's a very popular movie in India, Bollywood movie called Three Idiots. That comes to mind. There is like a very famous line which the protagonist Amir Khan says in that movie that success के कामयाबी के पीछे मत भागो, काबिलियत के पीछे भागो. That don't run
Hmm.
after success, run behind your building your capacity. But that's not the advice I want to give. I think the first part is good. Like, don't run behind success. So, run behind building your skills. But even more
Hmm.
importantly, superb, not so linear, but in fact, sort of exponential way to build your skills is, and actually to be more happy and a beautiful and more fulfilled person and be a more
Hmm.
self-actualized person is actually just see whatever you have skills existing and try to offer it to others who could benefit
Hmm.
from that, and just offer it with all your love because you have that compassion in your heart which wants to do something meaningful for others. So don't wait that till I finish my studentship and then I earn enough, then I want to do something else for others. Even if it's just
Right.
2 minutes in a day, even if it's like 10 minutes in a week, uh, figure out a way to offer something of value to another person. You do not need to go to the poor and downtrodden people to find who you should help. You could just, it could be something very simple as just, being a patient listener to a friend around you who is going through a hard time because there's so much of competition and pressure in the school system. Uh, it could just be like, having a smile on your face because just even a smile could make someone's day. So yeah, that's what I would recommend, to do small acts of kindness with great love.
Yeah, so this is actually very related to the pandemic, this next question. So, one paradigm shift you are seeing in the world post pandemic, and one paradigm shift you want to see.
So, I, wow, this is such a beautiful and large question. So, I would say that one thing which I am seeing is that increasingly uh, our interactions are becoming more and more virtual, right? Uh,
Hmm.
and it is even more difficult now to lead with relationships rather than lead with transactions. Like, uh,
Right.
when I would go to school or when I would go to office, like we all know that it's not like really the work, but our saving grace is just this warm, little heart to heart conversations which we have, just little small acts of care which we are able to show towards each other, just small acts of celebration which with which we can engage in each other, right? A gentle look, a smile, all of those things, which really keeps us together, which keeps us uh, happy and satisfied. But with internet, it's becoming increasingly more difficult, right? Like it's not easy to
Yeah.
relate deeply virtually. So that is something which I feel, and even with schools, right? Like children will, like I have two nephews here in my home, 8 and 5, and
Hmm.
I feel so sad for them that they are just doing their classes online and they're not able to meet people. So I think as
Yeah.
a collective, as humans, we have to be much more creative now and
Hmm.
also insightful. If we don't have that insight
Hmm.
among ourselves, within ourselves, we cannot create anything outside.
Right.
So we need to have that insight that the connections and the bonds is important. Like I love this example that there is a carbon and graphite. There's like graphite and
Hmm.
diamond, both are made of carbon atoms, right? But
Right.
the only difference between graphite and diamond is the way in which the atoms bond with each other. How are they tied to
Hmm.
each other? So that's, I think, the aspect of relationships. That how do we relate deeply to each other? So, which is
Right.
a much more complex question. Like we were having a hard time managing our relationships even the pre-COVID era. So,
Yeah.
so it's going to be much more challenging now. Maybe it is right now. We are only concerned about oxygen cylinders, but that kind
Hmm.
of uh, sort of collective bonding is something which will the problems will start showing much later because those are much more upstream and subtler problems. So we should be mindful that we find some creative ways to have to be able to relate deeply to each other in a
Hmm.
non-agenda sort of non-transactional way. So maybe just
Yeah.
doing circles with friends online just to meet where they're not talking
Hmm.
about work, just holding for students, just encouraging that students and school come together without like a lecture to be delivered and figure out some fun
Yeah.
activities and some meaningful activities so that we can become more
Hmm.
friends with each other. Otherwise, we are going to lose our social skill completely. We have already lost it because
Yeah.
because you can. It's so easy to unfriend someone on Facebook, right? But on real in real life, it doesn't work like that, right? If you don't like your brother or your nephew or your neighbor or your classmate, you can't just unfriend them, right? So
Yeah.
like you can't cut off your neighbor, you cannot unneighbor your neighbor. So how to
Hmm.
get along is something which will be even more complex now. And one change which
Yeah,
I would want to
definitely.
see is just, I think, people focusing more on building context, building relationships,
Hmm.
uh, rather than just, getting the work done, which they think. So it's like getting work done is urgent, but building the right relationship so that it's very sustainable and keeps regenerating and supporting everyone for the long time
Yeah.
is much more resilient and sustainable and regenerative.
Yeah, very true. Build connections, not contacts, no?
Yeah, beautifully said.
Yeah. Yeah. So my last question to you is, so we talked about, unlearning as an individual, but what is one thing that you think as a community or as a collective we need to unlearn?
That's beautiful. I think what we need to unlearn, it's not easy. I myself struggle with it daily many times. Is how you can actually change others, right?
Hmm.
And we always see our life and we see people around, and rightly so, we find so many things that they could be doing better. And our impulse is just to, prompt them and try to correct them and say that this is something which they are doing wrong, which is very force-based way, a push-based way, which I mean, more you look at it, more you will
Right.
realize that it does not work. It is extremely
Hmm.
counterproductive. So, how do you support others to become the best version of themselves is something which I would
Right.
like all teachers to unlearn. I would like all parents to unlearn. I would like all, company managers to unlearn. I would like, teen and adolescent and, grown up children like us to unlearn about their parents because we think
Hmm.
that our parents need to
Yeah.
change a certain way. So all of this needs to unlearn, and I would also like us to unlearn that about ourselves, because that's inner
Hmm.
critic. Like first we need someone outside for a few years in our life to criticize us, but then we get extremely proficient at it. Like we create a part in ourselves, right, which is always criticizing us. So we don't even
Right.
need a person outside. So I want all of us to unlearn that, to accept
Hmm.
ourselves and others howsoever we are, because if you have someone's heart, if as you said, don't contact but connect, right? If you are able to connect to
Yeah.
yourself, then it can enable change in a very different way, because this heart is
Very
like, I read a quote yesterday only, it just made so much sense to me, that our heart is not very amenable to pressure. Whenever someone gives any
true.
pressure, it shuts down, and then the game is over. But
Right.
it's a very, like, if there's a flower, you can't like, if there's a bud, you can't say, I want you to bloom right now, and like, just open its petals by
Yeah.
force. So how do we learn from nature and allow ourselves and others to bloom very gently? It's not a trivial thing. It does not come without doing any inner work.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, so that sums up our time for today, Rohit. It's been great listening to you. So many beautiful insights we've gotten. Hopefully, we'll be able to have you back sometime again and do looking forward to meeting you in person. Also, I feel like these virtual connections now need to stop.
Thank you, Messi. It's been such a privilege and such a pleasure, just talking to you,
Yeah.
seeing your beautiful smile and your really insightful and thought provoking questions and heart opening presence. Thank you so much.